Welcome to Crypto Sapiens, a show that hosts lively discussions with innovative Web3 builders to help you learn about decentralized money systems, including Ethereum, Bitcoin, and DeFi. The podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and it is not financial advice. Crypto Sapiens is presented in partnership with Bankless DAO, a movement for pioneers seeking freedom from the limitations of the traditional financial system. Bankless DAO will help the world go bankless by creating user-friendly on-ramps for people to discover decentralized financial technologies through education, media, and culture. Hello and welcome back to Crypto Sapiens. I am thrilled to again bring you a special feature. We recently traveled to New York to attend NFT NYC and the various DAO-related events being hosted that same week. Today's episode features conversations with some of the speakers and guests at the DAOPlanet NYC event. DAOPlanet NYC presented an opportunity to connect with the top thinkers and operators in the DAO space. The two-day program encompassed legal structures and considerations, tokenization and tokenomics, regulatory implications, governance and strategy, and so much more. We hope the conversations we captured give you a glimpse into a diversity of topics and people at the event. So without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah, my name is Jared. I'm a co-founder of something called Incred. We bring your verified professional achievements onto the blockchain. And today I'm here mostly representing LexDAO, which is a guild of legal engineers, talking about how your DAO still needs an operating system, even with the blockchain, even with tokens.
That's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about what you're going to be talking about here. Maybe expand on it a little bit for those of the people that couldn't make it. And then maybe we can build out from there, in terms of maybe some of the challenges that you're seeing in terms of the services that you provide and some of those needs as well.
Sure. So DAOs have two operating systems is the way that we see it at LexDAO, and late last year, we rebuilt our own operating system. They have the new cool computer operating system that's automated, that is blockchain based, obviously, but they still need the second old fashioned people operating system, the people OS. And so what that is, it's foundational materials, mission, vision, values, things like that. It's a planning system, it's an execution system, and some DAO specific features. And so we went through this process starting last year at LexDAO and into early this year, and through the community, through voting, bringing everyone with us. And we rebuilt our system. A lot of the mission, the foundational materials were already there. We didn't need to redo everything. But what we realized is that we had an amazing amount of people joining, super talented people, lots of them. And it was just fantastic. But we also felt we just weren't getting enough done. And so what we did is we looked at it what do we do? So we built in some execution system, like how to request money, how to do governance, redid our token, and created a lot of documentation. And through that, as I'll do in my talk today, we've had tons of projects launched in the last 6 months because they can now follow these steps, they can get onboarded, and they can launch under the LexDAO umbrella. So they get a head start to entrepreneurship by launching under our project.
That's wonderful. So if there is anything you'd like people to take away from your talk, what would it be?
I think the point is that you may think that DAOs can run themselves like DAO, right? They stand for something decentralized autonomous. DAOs are not ready to be decentralized or autonomous. Some can be closer than others. If you consider Bitcoin a decentralized autonomous organization, it's pretty decentralized, pretty autonomous. Even the Taproot upgrade there required some human interaction. That's as far as it gets. Most of them still need real people doing real things, making decisions, documenting things, onboarding processes, all that kind of stuff. So the big thing that I'm going to talk about today, and the real push is that just make sure you don't ignore that stuff. And this applies to I've been on the exec team in lots of tech startups, and often they don't do these things that well. And no matter whether you're at a tech startup or a DAO, you've got to have the systems to help to achieve your goals, to say what the goals are and how you get there and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My name is Adam Miller, and I'm the founder of MIDAO, MIDAO, which is a legal entity solution provider for DAOs. So we helped pass a law in the Marshall Islands. It created a new type of legal entity. It's an LLC that's made for DAOs, and DAOs don't have to make the kinds of compromises they do with other legal entities around the world. I got into this because I was working on DAO technology and trying to identify what the biggest challenges were for DAOs. And what we keep coming across was actually the legal entity problem was one of the biggest challenges they were facing. And this seemed like a really good way to help solve that problem. Here at DAOPlanet NYC today, I hosted a panel and gave a talk called What You Don't Know About DAOs. And I talked with the panelists about what are the things that people who are starting DAOs might be surprised to hear based on what they're seeing out there on the internet. So one example of that is, how many DAOs do you think there are? And I'll bet most people would say what they've seen on deepdao.io or maybe in the media, there's about 5,000 DAOs. Well, we took the 200 DAOs that we've worked with so far and tried looking all of them up on DeepDAO and found that 96% of them were not on DeepDAO. So if you flip around 96% and multiply it by 5,000, you get about 85,000 DAOs. So I argue that there are not 5,000, but instead almost 100,000 DAOs out there today. A lot of them are startups, right? It's like the equivalent of 3 people in a garage. Now it's like 10 people spread out around the world starting a DAO. So they're early stage, but there's a lot more DAOs out there than people think. And it's just growing so extremely fast. I also announced my new podcast. It's called Just DAO It. So check it out. I'm going to be talking about, similar issues that are affecting DAOs, things that we're really going to try to dig into, our guest experience with DAOs, starting DAOs. What were some of the common challenges they had? What were some of the solutions, their advice, recommendations, favorite tools, least favorite tools, pieces of information that will help you start and operate a successful DAO.
So if there was one thing you wanted people to take away from your talk, what would that be?
My number one recommendation, and I don't even think I got to say this during the panel discussion because I let the other panelists talk, but DAOs need leadership and management. And maybe that sounds obvious, but a lot of the DAOs that I see operating today, all the people came from crypto. They're technologists, they're engineers, they're Web3 enthusiasts. You don't have a lot of like MBAs and like former CEOs and, people who have like management experience, leadership experience, organizational design, organizational psychology. All these things that are really important in a traditional organization are important for DAOs too. And I'd say DAOs mostly are not thinking about these things. So, it starts with simple things like, what's your mission? What's your vision? What's your, something like a constitution, right? What's the purpose of the organization? Where have you captured it? Values, culture, right? How do you create a consistent and positive culture that helps the organization achieve its mission? So a lot of DAOs don't have these basic things, let alone some kind of process or hierarchy or just something. It doesn't have to be top down. It doesn't have to be centralized, but it has to be something that allows a large group of people to operate in concert towards a common goal. And that's what a lot of DAOs are lacking. I think what's going to be really exciting is people are coming into this space from the traditional business world, leadership experts. Just today, we met a couple leadership and management experts who are bringing their firm into the DAO space with a DAO called Talent DAO. And they're going to help teach DAOs how to do these things right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Humpty. Thanks for having me.
So my name is Eric Hill. Most people know me as Rotorless. I got my start in the DAO space at Bankless DAO originally, where today I'm still the ombudsman, and I work at the governance solutions engineers problem. But outside of that, I belong to a number of projects, and I'm a practicing crypto lawyer.
Great. So walk me through some of what you've been experiencing here and some of the things that have resonated with you so far.
Yeah, so it's really great to be back at an event, like in a whole event week like this, and where you run into familiar faces and you see the changes that occur over the period of 3 to 4 or 5 months. And something that's resonated with me the most at this event here in New York City is the number of people that I have run into taking alumni photographs on the rooftops of buildings at lunches, meeting them for the first time, who had either been in Bankless or continue to be there, but have used the skills and the knowledge they learned there to leverage it into full-time work, make a transition into the space. And whether that's at Polygon, whether that's at other DAOs starting their own DAOs, whether that's at Crypto Mondays, it's really noticeable, and it feels great to be part of that. And that's what sticks out at me the most.
So you talk about Bankless DAO as this almost facilitator to people who are coming into DAOs to learn about the DAO ecosystem, find their footing. What do you think makes Bankless DAO so special to have that type of role?
I think it's because their fundamental mission is to equip people with the tools necessary to participate in Web3. And sometimes people can view that as, well, understanding how to use a wallet and get a token. But there's a lot more to the Web3 than that. And the DAO, how DAOs function, how they dysfunction, the pros and cons, the frictions, the non-frictions. And to a certain extent, it's big enough and there's enough going on that, like if you're in a small DAO, you can only really learn one way. And so maybe the size of it, the scale, and the number of people that are continuously coming in, asking questions that have to be re-explained over and over and over again, and the number of people that have the answers. And so it really makes it a well of knowledge. It's a great training ground. I wish, I think in retrospect, that all those people remained. The truth is there's probably not enough space for everyone. And it's just great to have this alumni network and to start to see so many people. Like you and I only met in person for the first time a couple of days ago, and we took a photograph at the Polygon with all ex-Bankless people, and you just can't miss it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you kind of connecting with me while you're here, but also giving me a vibe back to like why I'm also a member of Bankless DAO.
Yeah, it's been great, and thank you very much.
So I'm Eric Tung. I am the founder of Familio, which is a new layer one that's focused on being minimal, trustless, and governance free. I'm here to talk about governance outside DAOs as a threat against governance inside DAOs and how that could actually affect your DAO's autonomy. If, a layer one's governance tries to subvert your DAO, or if some token that your DAO holds, maybe DAI, the DAO that controls that token could also subvert your DAO and things like that. Because I feel like the main appeal of DAOs is its autonomy, the idea that its governance is only decided by its members and not by anybody else. And I feel like we need to think of ways of defend this autonomy against governance outside the DAO. Lots of new technologies and techniques such as immutable layer ones and privacy and threshold cryptography and stuff that could really enhance DAO autonomy, and would like to just raise some awareness to those technologies.
So walk me through some of those challenges, some of those risks, maybe briefly, and how maybe the project that you're working on could potentially solve some of those challenges.
Definitely. So, for example, one of the big challenges is, what if your layer one has governance, right? So all the major layer ones now have pretty intensive governance, especially kind of the general purpose blockchains like Ethereum and Solana, as opposed to blockchains like Bitcoin. And once we have this kind of layer one governance, you essentially have a DAO that can overrule your DAO at any time, right? So, I mean, Ethereum's original kind of most controversial governance choice was to overrule a hacked DAO, essentially. Although, you can debate the legitimacy of that, but I feel like if we imagine a world where DAOs are much more influential and much more kind of socially consequential, then a lot of interests that have stake in layer one governance would have interests against DAOs on that layer one. And then you might end up in a very very tricky situation where you think that the DAO's members control the DAO, but it's really the layer one governance DAO that finally calls the shots. And so for this particular problem, I think what I'm working on can help, because I'm developing essentially a blockchain engineered to not need governance and essentially be socially ungovernable. The idea is that you have a minimal general purpose blockchain designed for layer twos, designed for rollups and that kind of thing. And the idea is to develop an ecosystem where you can't coordinate governance on layer one and you don't need to. Kind of like how we no longer govern the basic internet protocol. We're still using IPv4 from the 1980s, and we've been trying to replace it with IPv6 from the 90s for like 30 years, and it's not working because it's deeply embedded into the protocol stack. And I want to build a blockchain that's similarly deeply embedded, so that kind of at the root of everything is something that's governance free. And then you can build your governance full structure on this governance free substrate.
Amazing. So you're talking about this tomorrow. So if there was something you would want the people that are listening to take away from that talk, what would it be?
Yeah. Basically, think about who actually has the votes in your DAO outside the people supposedly in the DAO.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
My name is Lisa Woken, and I'm a founding member of Talent DAO.
And I'm Sarah Sonnenfeld, and I'm also a member of Talent DAO.
So, what is Talent DAO?
Talent DAO is basically a group of organizational psychologists conducting research on the DAO ecosystem to help DAOs thrive.
Amazing. So, you were speaking here on stage. Is there anything about what you talked on stage that you would like anyone listening to know about what that was, what it was about?
We were, first of all, super excited to be here. And there's two things that we talked about. I think the first one, which was today, is what mainstream organizations can learn from DAOs and what's like really distinct happening in this space from the perspective of a lot of trends shaking up organizations these days, as we all know, whether it's remote work, changing borders, new ways that companies are coming together, and what people are looking to for them. Are they moral actors, for example? In terms of what DAOs can be teaching to the mainstream that they really have to pay attention to, there's all sorts of things, but it's like, hey, how do you define work that's worthy of a bounty? Or how do you become a digital flash mob and actually get started so very, very quickly for a very focused purpose? Tomorrow, we'll also be talking about leadership in DAOs. And for that, I'm going to pass it over back to Lisa.
Amazing. So talk to me a little bit about what that talk's going to look like.
So I'm so excited because it's actually reflecting some very active research that we're doing at Talent DAO right now. Basically, the talk, which is called Leadership in a World of DAOs, is focused on trying to first define what is leadership and what does that look like in a DAO context. Then it's also looking at what have we learned from the past 25 years of research that's been conducted on these forms of shared, distributed, and collective leadership that DAOs can really learn from and stand on the shoulders of those giants. But then also active research that we're doing to interview DAO leaders and really take a look at what does this look like in the context now and how do we help people become better at exercising effective leadership practices.
Amazing. So sounds like there's a lot that was being discussed today and will be discussed tomorrow. If there was something you wish that someone who was listening to these talks in the audience could take away from it, what would that be?
I think I would just share that there is an actual difference in the shift from a Web 2 traditional organizational context to the mindset of Web 3 and DAO leadership. And the way I break that down is basically by saying it's all about mojo over ego.
I like that. Anything else to add?
I love that also. So I will add in my appreciation and that like it's a community of fellow explorers. There are a lot of people who've been here for a long time and feel confident in the language and the space. And I can't tell you how many people I sat next to who were like, I just moved from this to this in May and I'm learning these things, or I'm, figuring out this language, but I'm fascinated in this part. So I think it's a really open community at this point.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much both for coming on and sharing a little bit about what you're doing here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.
Sure, thanks for having me. So my name is Alex. I'm co-founder of Clearverse. We are building the DAO working platform, helping DAOs to acquire talent, contributors to earn with DAOs, but at the same time build a professional identity with our proof of talent. Amazing.
And so what are you talking about here at this venue today?
I am talking about actually with the podcast host in a panel about, professional reputation in general, Web3 DAOs, identity, SBTs and VCs probably will be mentioned too.
Yeah, that's a hot topic. So tell me a little bit about reputation and how Clearverse sees that.
I think reputation is context specific, but what professional reputation means is we want to actually figure out your truthful skills, truthful expertise. We believe that the results that you've delivered in the past, they represent them in the best possible way. And we want to capture that data on the chain, build your professional identity based on that so that you can actually show who you are based on what you've done and what you've achieved, not who you know or which kind of status you have.
That's amazing. So if there was one thing you hope people took away from your talk today, what would that be?
That your wallet will be your resume and you can actually showcase the actual work with results that you've done in a quantifiable way, in a verifiable way in that resume.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name's Justice. I go by 0x Justice online and in the metaverse, right? And I came here to DAOPlanet because there's so much you can focus on Web3. There's tokenomics and the culture and all this, and I want to make the most impact. So I really try to mega dial in on core DAO tooling, governance, and the utility there. And this DAOPlanet is right after NFT NYC. And so this is heavy on the how do NFTs play into governance. And, I'm coming to some stronger positions on how important that is. And so 2 days coming out here in the Big Apple and eating it up. It's really great.
Well, now for anyone that doesn't know, and I know a little bit about you because of your work at Bankless DAO and also your writing, you say you're kind of eating all up. There's kind of this bridge between NFTs and DAOs. What are your takeaways from both events so far?
My big takeaway is, and I hope this doesn't come off as negative, and some people have said it. They said the narrative of DAOs has outrun the utility or the usefulness. And there's a side of us that wants to say, hey, this is the future. It's the future. And I believe that. I am a believer 100%. But we cannot be self-deceived and understand there are deep issues to resolve. And we're almost kind of quiet about it. And it feels really liberating to meet with other people and them share like, hey, we're struggling with this too. And you're like, wow, I actually feel really good because we struggle with that too. And as soon as we can be open about that, we can come connect on like some possible solutions,
I think the market can affect some of the sentiment and some of the narratives too. And so I can see why maybe some people are talking about it that way, but absolutely, I agree with you. I think this is the future. So I'm really excited for the same. What are some of the things that you would hope that some people take away from this event where you've been at?
I would say, the narrative of how you found and launch a DAO is growing in more sophistication. And whereas not long ago, the idea was launch a fungible token, spin up a Discord server and you're rocking and rolling, it's coming far more complex and saying, that's not the first step. And you can kick this off with lower hanging fruit of NFT access cycles and building community and non-fungible tokens and build up a treasury through those dynamics and build up to the more sophisticated treasury management and liquidity and avoid a lot of the regulatory and technical difficulties with that. And so coming from a background of agile software delivery, of incremental improvement, this scratches my brain where I really like it,
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks so much. It's awesome seeing you here.
My name is Adrian Kennedy. I go by A/K on all of social media, and I'm here representing Mentors, which is an educational platform that helps artists and creators and businesses get onboarded to crypto, NFTs, DeFi, etc. And then we help them launch projects by building technology. And the other project that I'm representing is called DTC. That stands for the DAO Treasury Corporation. And what it is a fintech platform and product that helps DAOs get banked. And so we help them go through the entity formation process, help them get bank accounts in the US. And then also we want to move up the ladder to provide them additional banking services, card services, collateral-based lending, etc.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you've seen in terms of getting DAOs banked and like really what is that desire from DAOs? Is there a demand right now for that too?
Yes, there is a demand right now for that. And I think the demand is going to grow in the future because one of the biggest problems that a lot of organizations have is that they have a lot of assets, but those assets are trapped on chain. And so we do recognize that we still live in a real world where, you have for example, like Links DAO, they want to buy a golf course and that's going to need some insurance and payroll, et cetera. People want to buy real estate. People want to buy intellectual property and other goods. And having fiat and having some presence in the real world, even if it's not 100% of your treasury, just having just 10 to 15% definitely gives you a footprint in the real world, and also adds legitimacy in capital preservation plans and business continuity plans by having some of that treasury more stable than normal, especially with the collapse of US Terra, different stable coins, unpegging, and wanting to minimize some of that risk.
So what has the response been for DTC when you explained the product to DAOs during this event?
Yeah, and I mean, the response has been very good. So we have a wait list now where we have people just go ahead and sign up for that at thedtc.com. And the response has been great. I mean, we talked to DAOs and they understand the importance of having a US-based entity and making sure that from a statutory and regulatory standpoint that they have the presence that not only allows them to get banked, but then opens up the world to overall capital markets, venture capital, capital raises, et cetera. And then if they want to move up the ladder towards issuing security tokens and all of those things, we can have conversations about that as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about what you're here doing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maya Keitesi Lipin. I am a Rwandan Canadian artist. I am the creator of the first traditional Rwandan imigongo, as well as the founder of the African Artists Coalition. I created the first imigongo traditional Rwandan art NFT as an attempt to plant a flag in an industry where a lot of African artistry is either being reproduced by non-African entities or undervalued, so to speak. So I created that kind of as a guinea pig for my collective, right? And the African Artists Coalition, we are a collective of artists, developers, curators, just all around art lovers from the continent and the diaspora that are centered not only on the heritage celebration, but also on cultural preservation through the lens of the digital landscape. So basically, this was inspired by finding some old files and archived after my mom passed away about 4 years ago from breast cancer. She was an amazing Rwandan woman and a big part of the understanding behind my Rwandan cultural heritage as a first generation born outside of the continent. And I didn't know what the paper said, right? And so I went on a pilgrimage back to Rwanda and met my cousin and showed them the papers. And they were like, oh my God, your mom went back 9 generations, starting with her great grandfather. So I am one of the very few Rwandans who was able to go back that far and understands and knows every single person in her lineage, both on the maternal and paternal side. So being multicultural and also being Canadian, it was a piece of cake finding it on my white side, right? So my family's from France and we went back and we can find that ancestry.com and all of those things. But Africans, generally speaking, that heritage, history, culture, or alpha is lost once the people are gone if it's not saved in a tangible way, like scraps of papers that you find in your mom's folders, right? So how do you protect that moving forward? How does 5, 6, 7 generations from now, how can you hold on to your legacy and the accuracy of what is non-tangible information in your family? And how do you extrapolate from the family model to the country, continental, and just African artistry as a whole? So I'm really passionate about discovering all of the little different ways, like minting family NFTs, and protecting time capsules. And, you know, it's just so much. I could talk about it all day, but, if you're interested in learning about it more, please reach out to me at MAIALEP as in Paul, INE, Maya Lepine on Twitter. And I'd love to elaborate more about what we're doing. We're also looking for a fiscal sponsor. So if you are here to support the cause, please let me know. We're a legitimate entity and we have a DAO that'll be backing us soon. Thank you.
I'm Jen Sanasi. I'm a content director at Windranger Labs, which is a core contributor to BitDAO.
Amazing. So explain to me a little bit about what that means and what is BitDAO?
So I'll start with Windranger Labs. We are the lab. Okay, let me start from the beginning. We are a lab that contributes to the BitDAO ecosystem. So there are many DAOs in BitDAO's ecosystem and autonomous entities, and Windranger acts almost like an accelerator, an incubator, and even in some ways a little bit like an agency to help get autonomous entities off their feet. BitDAO, on the other hand, is an investment DAO. We look for amazing entrepreneurs, builders in the space. We look for other autonomous entities and we partner with them strategically and can also fund them to help build out Web3.
So tell me a couple of the maybe DAOs or NFT projects that you heard about while you were here that really kind of intrigue you. And as someone who maybe is working in one of those 2 projects, really makes you want to learn more.
A DAO that's really intrigued me. Okay, I actually have to say, I just hosted a panel and there's this wonderful woman named Alicia on the panel. She has a project that she's building called Disruptor DAO. And that project is really near and dear to my heart because she's working on getting Black and brown women into the crypto space and providing financial accessibility that a lot of these women have never had before and never thought that they would have in their lifetime. So I am really excited about that project.
That's exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
My name is Alicia Holmes, also the Wealth Whisperer. The project that I'm representing here today is the Disruptor DAO. And the Disruptor DAO is about disrupting the wealth gap for women of color, particularly Black and brown women, and onboarding women into the Web3 space, having them see the opportunities, investing in innovative technology, but also being creators in the space, looking at potential professional opportunities in the space, and really having the world understand a bit more about this crisis, state of emergency for people of color, and particularly women of color in terms of the wealth gap, which is, I can throw out statistics. The average net worth of Black and brown women is around $5 compared with white women, which is around $41,000. It was a huge study done in Boston by the Federal Reserve of Boston. They researched what is this wealth gap, and they found that white families had an average median net worth of around $240,000. And I have people guess what it was for Black families. It was actually $8. And people thought that it was a typo. And so it's a state of emergency. Everyone who's studying it is thinking, how do we address this? And I feel like we have some solutions on how to address it.
That's incredible. So, I mean, I really appreciate what you're doing, but also the way that you're kind of framing this, right? That this is a state of emergency. What are some of the processes or kind of vehicles that your organization provides to start facilitating that like revolution for women of color?
Okay, so through my journey to wealth, I started an organization that's all about creating communities of women supporting each other to understand wealth. Understand the world of what it is to be in a wealth building game, because very often generationally that has not been passed down to us. When you're in the wealth building game, almost always someone came into your life and taught you a different paradigm. And that was my experience at 19 years old. Someone came in and told me, well, I'm going to change your world around this. You got to manage your money, focus on net worth, not on income, and invest because saving does not build wealth. And these are some smart ways of doing it. And because of that, early in life, I was able to become financially independent by the time I was in my early 40s. And I get to teach other people to do this.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And if there's one takeaway that you hope people took away from your talk today, what would that be?
That it is very important to understand that the wealth gap is in a state of emergency, and to whoever is listening who has some power to address and get on board with supporting, eliminating this wealth gap and creating more opportunities for women of color.
And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed these candid conversations from DAOPlanet NYC. I'd like to thank the people and projects who shared their time with me for this episode. To learn more about DAOPlanet and to access the full archive of their event, please go to DAOPlanet.org and on Twitter at DAOPlanet_. Thanks for listening to Crypto Sapiens. If you enjoyed this episode and would like us to do more of this, please follow and message us on Twitter at Crypto Sapiens_. We also would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star review wherever you enjoy your podcasts. It costs $0 to you, means the world to us, and helps others discover this content too. You can also find more conversations like this one by visiting our archives on our website at cryptosapiens.xyz. I look forward to reconnecting with you at our next discussion.